Welcome to the HumbleBrag podcast. My name is Nate Mendel, and in this episode, I'm going to be discussing why it is that I'm going to be putting down my mic, so to speak, and taking a break from content creation as well as podcasting. This is going to be a long episode, possibly unedited, raw, lots of pausing, lots of thinking, as I reflect back of over a decade here on YouTube, and I share a lot of the thoughts and phenomena that took place over the years. I'm also going to share a lot of insight as to what's currently going on in the content creation realm as a general rule. And I don't imagine anyone will sit through this, but I want this to be on my channel so that if somebody's curious in a month, 6 or 12 from now, why I haven't created content, they'll have something to refer to. Also, over the years, I've been extremely honest with regards to what I was feeling, what I was going through. I was never really one to shy away from expressing the reality of life. And so now is no different. I'd like to share my thought process, as I say, potentially end on a high note, but certainly take a break on a high note. So I begin with Hodu Lashem Ki Tov, praise God for He is good, Ki Olam Chazdo, for His kindness endures forever. God has been extremely good to me, gracious, and I'm extremely grateful. I would like to reflect back. I have been creating content, I believe, certainly more than a decade. My YouTube channel is 12 or 14 years old, so perhaps that's how long ago I started. I guess when I was a teenager, becoming a young adult. And a lot has changed since then. So I'm going to think back to share how it began, what the thought process back then was, and how it has progressed and changed, and what has led to the decision today. When I first began, I was about 17 or 18 years old, and there was one core reason why I started creating YouTube videos, and that was to share in the excitement and inspiration and positivity that I was currently feeling at the time. I was learning about Amunah, the full and complete faith in one loving God, spirituality, meditation. I immersed myself very deeply in those, not just practices, but the education of it. And it was life-changing, it was fundamental, it was groundbreaking, it was healing, and it was so many other things. And I was vibrating on such a positive frequency that the only thing I could naturally then do in that state of being was just try to share it. And I learned very quickly back then that family and friends don't want to hear about it. So the only other outlet is to go online, share it with strangers, so to speak. And that's what I did. Instead of, taking it out on those around me and talking to people all day about spirituality and becoming what people would think of as an extremist or somebody who's lost their marbles, I knew that I had found a part of me. Right then and there, I knew that I'm built for spirituality. I'm built for this. I had found my home. And that the best place to share what I was feeling and learning the best place to maybe inspire others to feel that good as well was online. But back then on YouTube, it was nothing like it is today. It was the early stages of content creation. Right, we're talking, what are we talking? We're talking 2010, I don't know, 09, 2010, 2011. It wasn't industrialized the way that it is now. And so everything about it was different. First of all, I never went into it for money or success or for fame. Like I said, it was really just to share the positivity with the hopes that other people who might be stuck, might be looking for self-help, might be looking for an outlet, might be looking for God, unknowingly might, bump into it and connect with it. So it was just so innocent and pure, and that was the main objective. I created videos, and I really used that as my outlet for my own creativity, for what I was feeling, so on and so forth. As the years unfolded, I got more and more into technology, creativity. Even as far as back then, I was already into creative writing. I liked scripting things and storytelling and narrative shaping, and naturally, it was just some of the aptitudes that I had within me. And creating YouTube videos or whatnot was like this perfect outlet for that, because I had this need to write and to share, and it was perfect. So I could, live it out, express it in the form of videos or whatnot. Eventually, at some point, podcasting became a thing, and I right away connected with that. I'm like, I want to create a podcast. I created a podcast. It was called Faith is Strength. Right? I was really leaning deeply into the core, the essence of what I was interested in, and that was faith. I also learned through that journey over time that the God topic, the faith topic, is just very stale and unappealing. Internet was starting to really kick off. Social media was really kicking, and people connected with, I don't want to say politics, because I think politics rolled around much later, at least the level that we consume it today, the average user. But people were into other topics. There were a lot of debates back then, theist, atheist debates on epistemology, on existence of God, so on and so forth. But the notion of somebody just talking about faith-related topics, spirituality, and I got a sense, very early that it's just, for those who are in it, those who live it, religious Jews or people who practice it, it's lively, but you're not drawing a mainstream audience from the type of approach and school of thought that I was coming from. That's why eventually down the road, I knew that I have to modernize. We changed the name, and we were going to go on a certain trajectory, but always remembering to bring in the depth. Back then, in general, content creation, video making, YouTube, it was more innocent by nature. It was less clickbaity. There was a lot of informational stuff. There was also a lot of nonsense and passive, but not chronic as it is today. And what happened was, as video content creation became more and more of a thing, it became commercialized and industrialized, and it became all about monetization, and then it became all about these platforms selling ads. And again, back then it wasn't so much about that. Not just for me, but in general, the landscape, the whole feeling, the whole culture surrounding it. And there was also a lot of opportunity to grow. However, I made critical decisions at various points along these 12 or 14 years that hindered my growth. And I don't just say this now in retrospect. I knew it while I was making those decisions, some of which include, for example, my refusal to give the algorithm what it wanted, because I felt like it was a form of capitulating to things that went against my values. For example, I knew that back then it was all about thumbnails. Thumbnails were the clickbait. Now these days it's also a lot about thumbnails, but it's just one minor detail in a bigger picture. So back then it was all about thumbnails, and thumbnails was a version of clickbait because you're trying to capture somebody with an image, and that image doesn't encapsulate really the content itself, but you got them to click. And I deliberately did not create the types of thumbnails that YouTube wanted. And the same thing with titles. It was very obvious for a content creator like myself, analyzes, I see what's going on, I see what works, I see how other people were succeeding. You need to put certain titles that plays into the psychology and the human behavior of, entertainment, of people who are scrolling and clicking on things. And there again, I refused to do it. I refused to do it because to me it felt like a form of dishonesty. It's a form of pettiness, so on and so forth. So over the years, there were so many things that the algorithm or YouTube wanted from me that I consciously refused to do. As such, my channel didn't grow quickly. It grew very slowly. And in addition to that, I refused to put in the hard work and the investment that it would require for the channel to really blow up. I didn't create content consistently. I created it sporadically on and off. I was not willing to invest 15 hours a day to content creation. To me, it was just a small creative outlet to share a little bit, to get a little bit out, but I never wanted it as my full-time job. I never saw it as my career, my future. In fact, so many of the things that I talk about have values that are grounded in the opposite, not getting sucked up into these types of things, into technology too deeply. So I felt like doing that would just not just make me a living contradiction. I truly don't feel in my essence that that's who I am or where I want it to go. So if you think about that and you observe how my channel unfolded and the growth I achieved over these years, it makes sense. It always made sense to me. I never cared about it because, like I said, when I began, it was never about how many followers or how many likes or how many comments. In fact, I had so little patience to respond to comments that I just disabled it for a long time. Like, don't leave comments. I don't even want to be tempted to answer people because then I'm living in this virtual world. But you can see, just from the little bit that I'm describing, that on the one hand, I had this personality that is good for content creation. Perhaps I could tell a story, I can narrate something, I could do research and share it, I could create a creative video. However, the personality to follow and to give in and to, get in line with what YouTube demands of you, I don't have that in me. So there is a trait that is missing in my personality for me to be a good, well-behaved, so to speak, YouTube content creator or a content creator in general. Because while I'm focusing here in explaining the YouTube phenomenon, these principles apply to every single platform in their own right. Every platform has their own weird quirks, but they all generally work the same way or based off of the same principles. So I have the creativity, I have the passion, I have this innate desire to want to share and help people also feel good and experience something and think about something. This is so cool. But then when it comes to the structure, the infrastructure, the technicality of, the platform it's going on and how they want me to behave and what I need to do to get it out there and all these different things, that's where I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not going to control my life. Leave me the fuck alone. So that's one of the reasons why over the years, the channel grew very slowly. But I will say that over the years, over a decade or more, I slowly built up some subscribers to the point where we are today, where maybe I have over 4,000 subscribers. I don't even know how many of those are like my intended target audience, or if I just ended up with them through all types of weird videos that I've posted over the years. But let's just say half of them are legit. Heck, you could say a third of them are legit. I don't even care. Let's say 1,000 of them are genuinely interested in the types of things that I discuss or the types of content that I create. 1,000 of them. I have no problem with that. I always laughed and I always remembered this and I held on to this principle. It's, back in the day, it was like you come into a little town, and if you could influence a town, or if you could speak in your synagogue or in your community center and influence some people, there was some pride in that. There was something to be said about that. These days, because of technology and everybody's so busy with how many followers and subscribers and all these types of metrics, it's become so desensitized and nobody's happy with anything. You're never satisfied with what you're getting, right? Just 50 years ago, if 100 people in a room listened to you and some of them thanked you for what you shared because it helped them, that was something. And then with social media and content creation, you have content creators who feel inadequate, like this is not enough. And thank God I never felt that way. I was always happy with whoever listened. I got personal feedback from people saying this was good, this helped me or whatever, keep doing more. And that feels good. It gives you some motivation to keep going. So that's a funny side point. But something happened along the way. One of the first things that stood out to me were that it started becoming very trendy to become a content creator. Not just trendy, due to the trajectory of technology and how it was evolving and advancing. Content creation was just wired into the default setting, so to speak. Meaning, the content creation that we see today, I'm in Vietnam right now. The amount of content creators that I see, and maybe not every day, but if I go to the beach, there's people videoing themselves doing pull-ups. It's completely normal. If I'm on the motorbike, here and there, you'll see a content creator going by with his GoPro stick or selfie stick. It has become completely normalized. In every few hundred people, every 1,000 people, there's a content creator. This was inevitable due to the trajectory that technology was advancing into. This was going to happen. And I was never, I'm a bit of a different soul. I'm just different by nature, and I never connected to the standard, the norm, like to what everyone else was doing. There's something about me that just gravitates toward being a bit different. If everyone's going to the right, I have to stand to the left. If everyone's standing in the line, I have to put my foot out. I'm a rebel by nature. I didn't behave in school growing up and in Hasidic schools while they were smacking me up. I was a rebel. I was a bad boy. I can't even say I followed the law when I was a teenager, running around doing illegal stuff. I was a bad boy. So I have that nature in me. So when content creation started becoming very trendy and everyone started doing it, I got a little turned off by it, right? Because all of the sudden you could see yourself through the lens of how other people are behaving. And it gives you some perspective. It's like, oh, that's, in a certain sense, that's what I look like. That's kind of what I'm doing. Even though everyone is slightly different and everyone comes at it from a different place, everyone has different values and different principles and all true. But I'm still a content creator, putting a lot of my personal stuff out on the internet. Albeit I'm trying to inspire people, whatever the excuse is, there's still a pattern of behavior there. And the more I started seeing that, the more I started drawing back a little bit. At the same time, that tug of war was there. I loved inspiring people. I loved the creativity. I loved the dialogue, the conversations, the philosophy, the depth. And so it's like this tug of war. I don't love what it looks like. I don't love that it's so trendy and cliche. It's no longer interesting and different. But I need to get this out of my system. I have those creative prowess. I have that kind of creative prowess. And so this was something that I experienced already years ago. It's one of the reasons why I went through stages of kind of flip-flopping. I started doing vlogging, and I made some interesting vlogs. I would vlog everywhere I went, and I was doing that in the early stages. And then I see everyone doing it, and I'm just like, no. Maybe I don't have an interest in putting all of my personal stuff and my family and everything online. And then I would do it some more. So like all of these, throughout the years, all of these different types of content creation, it was on and off, on and off. I couldn't decide because there's a part of me that enjoys the creativity. And then there's another part of me that sees the pattern and I'm just like, but that's not me. So there was this tug of war. So I never liked cliche. Back in the day, and just so you know, I have a list of talking points here that if it doesn't come up naturally, I'm going to refer to my screen just to remind myself. There's so many random points that I want to bring out. This is not a well-organized, well-orchestrated episode because I don't give a fuck. You understand? I don't give a shit. By default, to what this topic is. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm not trying to get anybody to subscribe. I no longer give a shit. So this is going to be a little sporadic how I share this information. It's not going to be organized. But I have a lot of different information and talking points that I want to bring out. Some of it you might find interesting. It's not just my story, but it's a lot about what's going on in this realm if it is at all interesting to you. It'll also give you some food for thought as to what might be coming. You know, things are constantly evolving and changing. I watched the process of this evolution all along. I'm behind the scenes, in a certain sense, part of it, because I'm a small-time content creator. I'm buying equipment. I'm creating videos. I'm trying to keep up with the production quality that society demands, so on and so forth. But what I wanted to say was that, so back then, so let's talk about some of the crux of some of the issues. So it started out as this quest to just share. And back then it was nothing. I put out a little tiny video. I get 50 views. 10 people like it. Yay, I inspired a couple people. Nothing to it, right? With time, you slowly start to build up followers. Now, mind you, you spend money along the way. The camera and the lens that I'm recording from right now combined is close to $3,000. So everyone you see on YouTube who has crispy, clear 4K or even 1080p and good editing and a good computer, thousands of dollars for this equipment. You spend money along the way. You also may spend money on some promotion to start getting your stuff out there. Over the years, you spend thousands of dollars on tools, on editing, on help, on this, on that, on the other. You're spending money on it. You're spending hundreds, not an exaggeration, hundreds, if not thousands of hours a year on it. Some people a month, hundreds per month. it's a real serious investment. So back in the day, you put in a little bit of effort, you posted your video, and what happened was YouTube would push it out there a little bit. You gain a few new subscribers, you get some impressions, you get some followers, and you inspire some people. Content creation in and of itself, not just with YouTube, has become so popular or so saturated that the supply is larger than the demand. So if you think from a business perspective, a simple supply and demand issue, we have now crossed a turning point, I believe, from what I'm seeing and what I understand and the research that I did. This is happening actively as we speak. It's happening now. Even a year ago, you could have potentially still gotten in the door. And that's not to say that people are not going to come around and blow up overnight. That's always going to happen. There's always the exceptions to the rule. But there's, I believe YouTube has, I forgot the number, it's either I think it's 5 million content creators. Okay? 5 million. Okay, so I'm talking about the majority, small-time content creators like myself. So what happened? The whole landscape, obviously, in media and everything changed. Content creators and influencers, as we call them, became a serious thing because marketing started becoming a huge thing through influencers. So we have influencer marketing became a huge thing. That means that YouTube in and of itself has commercialized, while it used to be a personal thing where you could have a little channel and do your little shtick and grow into an audience and be a streamer. Now it became like a normal occupation almost. People that go into YouTube, they go into YouTube seriously. Like they take it serious. It's going to be a job. Some people invest tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a massive YouTube channel because they could then not only make a paycheck from it, but through endorsements and various other routes of marketing. Big YouTube channels are $1 million businesses, legit. Now, it was never like that, so that's what I'm saying. It has commercialized. Due to all of this, due to this reality, the algorithm kept changing and continues to change. And just as recently as this past year or moving into 2026, it has gotten to the point where it basically fucked small-time content creators. How so? So let's talk about impressions for a moment. 10 years ago, I make a video and I have 100 subscribers. I make a video, I put it out there, and I get 50 views. 10 people liked it. Yay. Half of my subscribers saw it. Some of them like it. Beautiful. No problem. Over the years, I spent thousands of dollars, as I described, and you're building a channel, and the excuse of the investment is that one day it could give you a return. One day maybe I will monetize. I never monetized, but one day I could monetize. Maybe I could start earning some money. I never earned a penny from YouTube. Maybe 2 pennies. I don't know. I might have turned it on once and made $2 or something. I wasn't ready for that. That's not where I was. It wasn't my objective. But the thought is that you could build up, and then one day you could turn it maybe into an income, and it could pay off all the investment and everything. So you spend the time, you invest thousands of dollars, and over the years you actually build a subscriber base. Genuine people, real people who are interested in your content. What does YouTube do? They keep changing the algorithm, changing the algorithm, changing the algorithm. And now they've changed it to the point where they don't give you those impressions. And this has been a slow decline. It's gotten worse and worse, but now it's gotten so bad. And trust me when I tell you, I did some research now. I see people are suffering. Thank God I never took it so serious. And I don't feel that level of suffering whatsoever. We'll talk more about that later. there are people who their YouTube channel and their content creation is so near and dear to them. They're suffering from the phenomenon that I'm about to describe that my channel has been suffering from, or my channel has been experiencing. And that is that YouTube buries you in the algorithm. What feels like shadow banning. YouTube says they don't shadow ban. They just have an algorithm. If you know how to play into it, good for you. If not, you're not hitting it. So it feels like shadow banning, but you basically get buried in the algorithm. And when that happens, when I post a video now, for example, the last episode I post an episode. It's a tiny 8-minute episode, probably the shortest episode I ever did on the HumbleBrag podcast. You post that episode, and within a day or two, there's only 10 or 15 views on it. Think about that. This is not a small detail, this is a huge detail for a content creator. I spent hours upon hours upon hours, from the research to the filming to the editing, with good equipment, let's say, even though that video may not have filmed on this camera, but whatever, it's not the point. You post it and you get 10 views. But wait a second, I have over 4,000 subscribers. Why am I only getting 10 views? So you begin to think, okay, something's wrong. I'm doing something wrong. So you start looking into this stuff, and you're trying to improve your content, and you're trying to improve your SEO when you're posting the video, and you're trying to improve your thumbnail, and blah, 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 blah. But you go down these rabbit holes of research. Turns out it's very simple. Impressions. YouTube, they don't hide how many impressions they gave you. Deep in your analytics, you could actually look it up. So I go into a video that I just posted that gets 10 views, and I want to see how many impressions it got. Impressions is how many times YouTube showed it to someone on their feed. I know how many clicks or views it got because I could see the count easily, but how many times did somebody even have an opportunity to click on it? So with the example that I'm giving, my last video, 65 or 62. I have over 4,000 subscribers that I spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours over more than a decade to build. Like we said, 1,000 of which are actually interested in what I create. And YouTube gives me 62 impressions. Now the click-through rate, 62, you have the 15 views, whatever. So whatever that is, it's 5-10%. It's not even bad. But what the fuck am I supposed to do? Now all of a sudden you start questioning yourself, is it even worth my time? Besides for the aspect that it's not fair, it's a complete scam, because basically what YouTube's doing, they're scamming small-time creators. Because what happens? I then have no choice. I either think to myself, either I recorded that whole thing for no reason at all, other than my own creativity. I did some research, I was excited about a topic, I recorded it, I edited it, I put it out there, I felt good doing it. There is an aspect to that, like I said, a huge aspect to doing this for people like myself. You get excited about something, you do it. But ultimately, you want to inspire somebody. You want to at least have some conversation, something, some dialogue, something. So when you're nobody and nothing, it doesn't matter. But 10 years in, when you built up a following, and you know some people are interested, and you're essentially creating the content for them, and then YouTube doesn't show it to them, the fuck? YouTube is basically destroying small-time creators in this vein, and there's nothing that content creators can really do about it. Oh, so what I was going to say was that, what does a small-time creator then do? They say, let me promote it, because I spent all this time creating it. let me spend $20 and push it out there a little bit. You know, you could promote, just like you could boost a listing on Facebook, all of these platforms. Bro, this shit became all about monetization. It's no longer about the creativity of it or the thing itself. It's all about the money. So think about this. YouTube has 5 million small-time content creators. All of them, or close to all of them, experience this type of struggle on one level or another. They're always trying to figure out, like, what am I doing wrong? How do I hit the algorithm? All this bullshit, all this nonsense, all this slavery to an algorithm. And nobody has proper solutions. So what they end up doing, like I've done many times, you put a little money to boost it, right? So I spend 20 bucks, let's push it out there a little bit. Now 20 bucks used to get you something when you did that. But even that doesn't get you anything anymore. The chutzpah of 2026 and where we're holding with inflation and the way that everything costs money, unless you spend $200, you're not getting any significant viewership. Now, this is where the scam comes in. You'll get shit views for the money you spend, but somehow you get more subscribers. You could probably imagine where this is going already. You spent all this time, this effort, you built up this channel, you want to get it out there, you want to inspire people. So you'll spend $100 to promote the video. You'll get 1, 2, 300 views, 400 views, it doesn't even matter. Most of the views are from people who are not even interested. You're not spending the $100 for them to show it to your subscribers. You're spending $100 for them to push it to new audiences, to try to get you subscribers. So most of the people that click into it end up not being interested. Perhaps they're not your target demographic. The people who are already subscribed to you, they still don't see it because YouTube is simply not putting it on their feed. Some of the people who click into it maybe like your channel. They're like, oh, this could be an interesting channel, so they subscribe. You now feel like you got, this is weird. I didn't really get the proper viewership. The average view duration, which is a huge metric at YouTube, is probably not good because it's a promoted video. So many people who don't know anything about me or my channel clicked into it. A minute in, they click back out. They're not interested in that topic, fear. So you told YouTube that the average view duration sucks. So it's potentially not a good video. The few people that liked it subscribed to you. So you just spent $100 or $200 feeling like, I gained 40 new subscribers. I got a few hundred views. And then you fall into this cycle and it just keeps going and going and going. If this is not the biggest scam under the sun, I don't know what is. And you have millions of content creators buying into the scam because in their head, again, not everyone is like, most people are not like me. Most people care. I don't care enough. And one of the reasons why I don't care, I held myself back from becoming emotionally invested, were for reasons like this. I used to sell on Amazon as a third-party Amazon seller. And one of the reasons I left that business, which my partner is still in, was because of that notion of somebody holding a noose around your neck. My fate can't be in the hands of a conglomerate who could decide to change an algorithm that affects my ability to succeed. And that's essentially what YouTube did. That's the thing with Amazon. You know, you're a third-party seller. What's if Amazon creates a new policy that affects you? Now, granted, every business comes with risks and every business could go wrong. You know, entire industries could collapse. The whole economy could crash. There's always risk. But the notion of being at the helm of conglomerates who run off of algorithms, huge policies, so on and so forth, it never worked with me. I'm a huge proponent of individuality, autonomy, free speech, and everything in between. And so I can never allow a technology company or some big business like this to control me. So I was always very apprehensive. One might even say I attracted this upon myself, and I'm completely okay with it. Most content creators are not like me. They do also invest their time, blood, sweat, and tears, and creativity. But a lot of them, especially now that it's become commercialized, they think they're making this their career. People are learning how to be journalists, social media journalism, whatever. Let's just call it 2026 journalism, where any Joe Schmo could be a journalist. But this is the reality of our world. I'm not going to complain about that or make fun of it. It's BBC and all the mainstream media is dying. This is becoming the new form of media. Everybody runs around with a mic and a camera and fine. Okay. They think they're going into something that's straightforward. And what they're essentially going into is the scam. At this point, it's literally just the scam and the lie, the sheker of the realm of content creation. They're falling for the concept of content creation. 99.9% of them will not succeed, but they don't know that because they're still being fed the lie that you could succeed. And you could, just like you could become the next Jeff Bezos and be worth $1 trillion. But the fact is 99.99% won't. In that sense, it's just as scammy as selling online courses, being a fake guru, and every, that whole category. There's no difference. Thank God I spared myself from that, because I am now sparing myself from all the anguish. I didn't like over the years the confusion that I had about all this as I was watching it unfold and I was trying different things. But I never invested in a way that it would affect me like this. I built business and family and relationship and goals and objectives and everything outside of my content creation world. And I always had my content creation as this side thing that I crawl into when I'm feeling creative or when I have an itch to express something or to share something or to talk about something. That's what it was to me. Thank God. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Okay, so you have the issue with the impressions. I hope you get it. YouTube is simply not giving you the impressions, and it's not just YouTube. I want to reiterate, this video is about YouTube because it all started with YouTube. YouTube was like the seed, and everything grew out from it. But I will, throughout this video, I'll remind you that it's not just YouTube, different channels like X, suffering from a similar thing. All right, let's keep moving. Other things changed as well. Censorship is a huge topic. Censorship is one of the things that changed. And it's one of the reasons why I despise YouTube to a certain degree. They're one of the worst when it comes to free speech. I started experiencing issues. I had issues all along, and I didn't know why, but now it's become clear to me, like, oh, I'm basically breaking every one of YouTube's policies. The way that I speak, I am verbose, unnecessarily verbose. I call myself unnecessarily verbose. I am, what's the word? I forgot. But I speak, I've learned to refine myself over the years, which we'll get to later. I'm thankful for all the skills that I've learned in doing this, because it has helped me to think more clearly, become a better communicator, which these tools, these aptitudes and skills, I then translate into so many other parts of my life. I'm very grateful for a lot of what this brought to me. Being a little bit more comfortable on camera, being more comfortable in interviews and conversations, great. But I speak naturally. I can't remember the term, but like in a very shocking way. I'll run my mouth, curse, name call, belittle, all of that kind of stuff. And YouTube picks up everything you say in your videos, and they have guidelines against it. Not to mention anything related to politics, anything related to sex, or any like sensitive topics. So I speak openly about everything, anything. They just fucking block these videos. So block it as in they just don't promote it. They don't give it any impressions. And if they don't give impressions, it's impossible to grow. It's impossible for anyone to see your stuff. Forget about growing. I care about growing. Just show a third of my subscribers my fucking video. They won't even do that. Fuck growth. Let me stay at 4,000. Just fucking show it to the 4,000. By the way, I noticed when YouTube started doing that as well. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, Facebook, sorry. I remember when Facebook started doing that. On our regular feeds on Facebook 10 years ago, you used to share something. Your friends saw it. You had fucking 500 friends. A couple hundred people saw your fucking post. There was a conversation there. Every year, it just became less and less. And then it became so, like, normal. At this point, it's normalized. It doesn't matter if you have 10,000 followers on Facebook. Facebook is not showing your fucking post to your followers. Unless they, like, turn on notifications. Or if your post hit the algorithm. If it went viral and, like, all this stupidity. So this whole concept, it's not like a WhatsApp group. WhatsApp groups are simple. You fucking post it. Everyone motherfucking opens it and sees it. You know what I'm saying? That's fearness. That's fear. Right? That's what we're fucking missing on social media across the board because they monetize the fuck out of it. They didn't just monetize. They commercialized. In the sense that I know on YouTube, and it's probably similar across the board, I think they said YouTube has, I don't know, I forget, 100 million daily viewers, let's say. 100 million, let's say, daily. 70% of them, so let's say 70 million, I might be getting the numbers wrong, but the percentage I believe is correct. 70% of them are watching the 30% of the largest accounts, something like that. So who's watching the small accounts? If you have 5 million content creators, who's watching them? The answer is nobody. Literally, nobody. And that's why small content creators are having this problem. YouTube has made, if you go to YouTube and you go home, oh, sorry, I'm mixing up some statistics. 70% of what is watched on YouTube is recommended by YouTube, not subscriptions. Remember, you have that subscription tab, but everybody's going to the home tab and you're being fed shit. Now, if 70% of the fucking videos being watched on YouTube are videos that you're being fed, and a large percentage, probably 80, 90% of it are from the big YouTube channels, where does that leave the 5 million small creators? Well, you could imagine in the fucking trash can. Oh, thank you, Hashem, right? Thank you, Hashem. You fucking go down a creative path only to be at the mercy of these fucking giants. Fuck them. Fuck the giants. So where was I at? So the censorship thing is a huge issue in and of itself. And by the way, X, who restored free speech, has its own issues. So this is not, meaning there is more free speech on X, but when it comes to content creation, earning, monetization, exposure, and impressions, they also have similar issues. So let's not get too excited about X. Oh, wow. I want to say that I held that on the algorithm until it was too late. So what's interesting is I just recently started posting a lot of shorts. This also speaks to my inner battle with social media, because for 14 years I resisted giving YouTube or capitulating, giving YouTube what it wants, or giving the algorithm what it needs. I held out, as I explained earlier. And I'm almost embarrassed to say, but like I said, my channel was always about telling the truth. I'm almost embarrassed to say that just recently I decided, you know what? Fuck you. I'll start giving you what you need. Right before I did the research before making this video, before getting a clear understanding of what's going on in the landscape, just like a week ago or more, maybe a few weeks by now, let's just say the beginning of a month ago, the beginning of 2026, I made the decision that I was going to start, at least for 1 year. I said, look, let me give it 1 year. Let me give YouTube what it wants, even though a certain aspect of it goes against my values. And the excuse, and what do I mean? I mean taking long form content, dicing it up into short form, and then on top of that, also posting short form stuff that I don't really care about. I do travel, I do family stuff, I do different things. I could take cool footage, dice it together. I could also do commentary, on political stuff or hot topics. All of those things I stayed away from deliberately. I knew those things could work. I see them working for everybody else. I stayed away from them because of my principles. And just a month ago, I was like, you know what? Let me compromise. Compromise on my own values. After holding out for 12 or 14 years, let me compromise. I'll do the same bullshit that everyone else is doing. It's going to lead to more views automatically. And from those views, it'll funnel people over, the small percent that might actually be intrigued by the topic, it'll funnel them over to the long form. How else can you grow? Unless you have a huge budget, big backing to create a massive production and advertise and really get out there and build a name for yourself, how else can you grow? The truth is you can. There is no other way. I knew that for a while, but I held out for years. And I finally gave in and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I was literally going to make a video just to pop it onto my YouTube channel, telling people like, yeah, I gave in, this is it. So whatever the fuck you see online from me, don't judge that. I'm just going to start fucking ripping videos. I don't give a fuck about nothing. And I played around. I started doing it for a few weeks. Just in this past week, I put up some dumb fucking video of me and my wife doing a nursery rhyme, and it gets 2,500 views on shorts. But that gets me 20, 30 subscribers. I make some dumb fucking video where I'm doing commentary on some political thing that happened in Minneapolis, 2,500 views. And then I make a bunch of other little videos. Half of them get no views, but the other half get 500, 600. And the reason for this, by the way, is because Shorts runs on a different algorithm. Shorts, you could get pushed, and if it hits it, like people are really liking it, it'll keep pushing you. Okay, there's different potential with Shorts, which is all part of the fucking cockamamie universe of content creation, that I was trying to avoid. One of the reasons I was trying to avoid Shorts is because I fundamentally disagree with the notion of feeding people fucking dopamine that's mindless and makes them fucking stupid. All day long, when I'm talking about important topics, spirituality, philosophy, it's the exact opposite. It's to slow people's brains down, open up, crack the fucking can open, start thinking deeper, more technical, let's analyze, right? It's the opposite of what the modern world is fucking moving into. But no, there's no fucking way. Why? Because YouTube won't fucking push it. So if there's no way, what can I do? Well, then I have no choice. I have to make shorts. So I start fucking pumping out shorts. Dumb as it may be, stupid as fuck. And it works. A couple weeks. I said, look, I'll do this for a year. I don't give a fuck. I'm not even going to look at the results. I told my assistant, open up all these fucking channels, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the fuck. Rumble, Blueski, I don't give a fuck. I'm not on any of these platforms. Schedule through Buffer or whatever the fuck these shorts on all these platforms. And then you put in the description if you want, or whatever the fuck, check out the full episode. And maybe if I do this for a year and I do it consistently every fucking day, because I have plenty of content that I could do that for. It'll funnel people over to my long form shit. Now, there's no doubt that that strategy is and could work. But that was before I learned about what's really going on in the state of content creation that made me really think and realize that, you know, God's been pushing me. I've had some signs over the past few years that I should just step back. And I saw them, I even discussed them on my videos, but then I tried again. And this is a very normal pattern with divine providence. You know, I feel like I have that connection. God speaks to me, but sometimes, you know, I'm lured back in by certain temptations, or I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm excited again. Let's inspire people. But God kept showing me over and over, don't do it. Because I had my accounts shut down. And that's like a clear sign to me, you know. I build up this nice X account, 2,000 followers. I'm posting shit all day, getting hundreds of thousands of fucking views on X, not on YouTube. YouTube's fucking dead. Right? I was hitting the fucking algo. Because on X I could go much more wild with free speech, writing, pictures, everything. X shuts my profile down. So it's like a sign from God. I fucking walk away. I come back months later, open a new account, start going fucking ham. They shut it down again. You know, so I had all these. God kept like showing me, just this ain't for you. I'm too wild for this shit. I can't control my mouth. I break policies by nature. Like, I'm a lawbreaker by nature. I can't take it out of my system. You give me rules, I fucking break them. I don't even know what the fucking rules are. All I'm doing is sitting in front of a fucking camera talking, and these channels just fucking blocking me and killing me. Anyway. Tell my fucking assistant, post this shit. So I had a game plan. I don't give a fuck. I create content. We slice and dice, fucking post it. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if people comment on it, look at it, don't look at it. I'll come back in a year, check all these channels and see what happened. Or I'll see if there's some influx of actual listeners on the long form. I had a strategy, but now learning what's going on in the broader scheme of things, YouTube is too saturated, meaning there's more supply than demand. Everything about YouTube has just become uninteresting to me. Like, everything's become so stupid. You guys might not get this on your feed, but because I'm a content creator, I see this stuff, like what other content creators are talking about, and all these videos about how to do this, how to do that, and it's like, the shit you're being fed is so stupid. So everyone's just copying and pasting. Everyone's ripping each other's videos and uploading it. And what do you end up on when you're scrolling the feed? You end up on stupid videos. This man thought he could take a 20-pound rock and throw it. Like, what are we watching? Why am I watching this? But you don't know. Because, yes, the first video you clicked into was actually maybe interesting. And then once you scrolled 3 down, YouTube just starts feeding you fucking garbage. And I had no choice but to reevaluate again. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Knowing what I know now, I feel a lot more content in making the decision to take a real pause. I'm not saying I'm done forever, because things could change drastically. YouTube and other platforms could roll around in a year or 2 from now and completely change something that makes it really viable for somebody who already has an audience or somebody to actually share stuff. All right? So I could roll back in 3, 6, 12, or 24 months from now and say, hey, let's try it. But the state that it's in now, fuck that. Absolutely and utterly no point. It's a waste of money, and more than that, it's a waste of energy and time. Because what happens is, you might ask, why not? Just keep doing it for my own creativity. You have to understand something about content creator, and I'm not even a full-time content creator. Content creators never have off. Everything I do and everywhere I go automatically turns into a creative thought in my head that I could video this, I could turn it into an interesting thing, I should record on this topic, I should talk, right? That pops into your head. And now you're already walking around, going about your day, planning that next video. Then you actually have to potentially script it, write it, or if you just skip it or you freestyle, then you have to record it, edit, post. Your entire life revolves around the realm of content creation. So as long as the channel is on, as long as HumbleBrag is alive, there's a sense of responsibility that lingers in the back of my head that you walk around with all day. Hence, you end up with some output. If I don't think about it every single day, then you're not seeing anything on YouTube. If I do think about it, you end up with content. By making the decision to shut the shit off, at least for now, gone. Now, I have peace of mind. Because when my brain, which will continue for months now, naturally to go to like content creation, I'm going to stop myself and say no. Now, that for me personally, that introduces a different issue. Because I have this creativity and I've learned a lot of skills in, video, audio, all this different stuff, even though you may or may not notice that I'm always struggling with audio because I'm traveling and you don't have a normal studio. This is a room with a lot of echo. There's so much thought that goes into high-level production. I don't want to get into it. But because I know that my shit doesn't get fed normally, I don't even care to go the extra mile. Like here in Vietnam where I'm staying, there's a beautiful studio I was going to go record. And then I learned about this. I'm just like, I was going to go record in a beautiful studio because you need soundproofing, whatever. High-level production is expensive and complicated. And when you travel, it's not simple. I'm not traveling with a huge mic and a recorder and everything. So you travel with the minis and then you deal with echo and then you have to clean the echo. But anyway, I learned all these skills over the years. And those skills could be applied to many things. So this creates inner conflict by default. There's a part of me that feels very moved and motivated and intellectually challenged by content creation. I've had this discussion with my wife. It ties into that other topic that we've discussed in the past of completely being off of social media or still going on a little bit for myself. So years ago, I got out of the habit of scrolling feeds and statuses and all that. The whole Joneses, looking at what other people are doing, comparing. Thank God I kicked that habit so many years ago. But I still have access to social media. On my computer, I could jump on and go to Facebook and look at something if I want to. But I primarily use that for marketplace. I never look at statuses. I find that all that kind of stuff to be cringe. But one of the things I discussed with my wife was the idea that and I've tried this, when I fully disconnect, completely disconnect, and I don't look at X, I don't look at news, because news is very destructive if you're addicted to news and you're looking every day and you're worried about what's happening in the world. Very destructive. It's complete detached from reality and it's very destructive. So I've attempted in the past, I've done it. I've completely disconnected. Complete disconnection. What happens is, and this may be due to lack of discipline of my own, but what happens is I stop being intellectually challenged. And you kind of go into somewhat of your own echo chamber. And when you go into your own echo chamber, if you're an intellectual person, you don't thrive in that environment. An intellectual person thrives in dialogue. So I found even when I did that, I wasn't my happiest then. So I realized then, this is a while ago, I need to find some medium. I don't want Twitter on my phone. I don't want to scroll like that. I don't want to be addicted. But I will have to jump onto Twitter once every other day or once in 3 days just to look through some of the highlights of what's going on. Because when I completely disconnect and I don't see some of the big world events, some of the big challenges, some of the big conversations that people are arguing about, I feel like I intellectually fall off. I've experienced that. I've literally done it not once, more than once, probably 2 or 3 times. And every time it was the same result. So I found for myself, even though I despise social media addiction and all that, I need to intellectually challenge myself. So you might say, well, you need discipline, and that's true. For example, if I had massive discipline and motivation, I wouldn't have to go to Twitter, say. I could go to Torah anytime and just listen to lectures. Lectures will stimulate my brain intellectually just as so. And that is true. That is true. You know, I won't make any excuse about that. It's just difficult, right? And then there's just that question, like, you know, how much do I want to be completely disconnected? Or do I want to allow myself to at least know somewhat what's going on? And with the state of the world, Israel, the dangers, Jews, anti-Semitism, I'm not addicted to news. Like I said, I'm very against news. I think news is entertainment. The majority, like 99% of the political discourse that people engage in on a daily basis is entertainment. I believe that wholeheartedly. That being said, with what's going on and my current state in life, I still like check in every few days just to understand some of the big highlights, what's going on, so that I don't feel like I'm living under a rock. You know, when somebody walks up to me and says, "Did you hear that Trump did this, or that we just attacked Iran?" I shouldn't say like no, I want to at least kind of know what's going on, or that it's coming, so I'm not caught off guard. And I think from a survival instinct, that might be kosher and okay. Because thank God I did kick the habit and I don't have that addiction. So yeah, so those were some very interesting points. Now what else we got here? Yes, I was saying that I held that on the algorithm until a week before I'm making this video. A month before. Until a month before I'm making this video, I held out, and then I feel like I gave in, and now God delivers this to me, this information. And like, oh, you couldn't have held out one more month? It just it's spiritually, I had to surrender to it. I had to surrender. Because sometimes being action, it's actually the story of my life, is that I always find a deeper success in many different areas when I surrender in a way that seems contradictory to my principles, my rigid principles and values. Too much rigidity, even when it comes to what you think is the right and wrong, it could even tie into your ethics. I don't want to get into this because it's a whole Inyan. And the whole idea here is that we're going to stop talking about inunum. We're going to stop getting into the depths of these topics for a little bit because it's a waste of fucking time. But there's a whole Inyan that you have to surrender and allow certain things to take place, even though you think it's against your values and principles, and then you come to higher levels of things. Let me just leave it at that. Anyway, I fucking gave in after 14 years, and then I learned a month later that you don't have to give in, don't waste your time with this stuff. And the conclusion in that area of all this is that I'm going to have to, so I have this itch and this burn and this creativity as a natural content creator and a thinker, right? If something's going on in the world, I want to discuss it. I want to share my opinion. I want to indulge in some dialogue. But also with everything I learned in terms of video and content creation, I want to use that creativity. And I'm going to have to, I don't know, I didn't create a full strategy yet. I have to contemplate on it some more. But I'm going to have to channel it into different areas. Perhaps business. This year I'm very focused on business. Last year I wasn't. And I could take, I think to myself sometimes, like if I took the amount of time that I spend recording videos like this, content creation, editing, if I spent that on creating, let's say, tutorial videos for my business or anything, just put that time creatively, not hard work, because this is leisure. You have to, for a content creator, for me, it was leisure. Like I did this stuff in leisure time. Like this is my downtime now. When I'm sitting here recording, I don't sit on a hammock on the porch. This is my hammock on the porch. Now I do go to gym, I do healthy stuff, I get out, but I'm saying like for a content creator, this was never work for me. I still have to work a full day today, meet with people, have business conversations. This is my leisure. So when that creativity kicks in that I want to do that, I now have to decide where I'm going to put it. And I will say, speaking of putting it places, elevate the spark. This t-shirt is from an organization called Nachal Novea, an organization that I helped build and design. It's a Shabbaton that was born out of October 7th. Aganza Maise. After October 7th, we made a Shabbaton in honor of October 7th. It was like a festival in honor of Shabbaton, in honor of those who we lost at the Nova Music Festival, hence Nachal Novea. Oh, you can actually see the t-shirt here. I don't know if you saw that, but anyway, beautiful Shabbaton organization. Whatever we did it 2 years in a row in honor of October 7th. And what's my point? Oh, I learned through that there are other mediums for inspiring people. And if you're anything like me, you feel the need to inspire, or you have the creativity to, or you just want to share, uplift people, whatever it is. The online world is not the only way to do it. In fact, I would go so far as to say that at these Shabbatons, when I saw with my own eyes how I uplifted people and how the testimonials of how many people loved it and all this stuff, it doesn't even come close. Like it's not even a comparison. It's a completely different hemisphere of impact when you compare it to online and digital. There is something nice about having an audience online. You impact people. You get some feedback saying this really helped me. It's impersonal. When you help people in person, which is, by the way, where I feel most impact, real life-changing impact takes place. Do you have any idea how many organizations exist? How many millions of organizations around the world work with people in person? Anyway, as I get older, tapping more into that, but here's the deal. I recognize that I have the nature that I want to maybe impact people, uplift people, help them, inspire them. I have this friction with media, technology, social media. Doesn't mean I have to walk away. I just have to channel. So that's going to be my, creative process that I have to figure out right now, because that burn doesn't go away. Tomorrow, I'm still going to feel like, I want that energy. Now I could get it out in the camera. You get it out, you get it out. That's going to have to be shifted. Put some of it perhaps into business, help grow your business, reach more monetary success. Put some of it in nonprofit, in helping people. There's so many people you could help and impact that way, so on and so forth. Yeah, so as I described that, the dilemma for me was, the dilemma right now is essentially, it's not a dilemma, but it's one of the things I have to basically process is that I feel like my creative outlet was just taken away, is essentially what it is. And it's something that I built for so many years. So I don't care about the platform, the means. I care about the potential to impact. So I just have to reevaluate and transform it into something else. All right, what other points do I have here? Heaven can wait, we're only watching the sky. I always had a hard time with fakeness. Over the years, I've seen multiple opportunities to do commentary. There was another thing that I experienced throughout this journey, very personal to me. It's very personal to me, in the sense that it might be unique to me. One of the things that I struggle with is role play or acting or fakeness. And there's a certain level, how do I say this most accurately? I think there's a certain level to content creation, depending on what style. I think there's a certain level to it that requires fakeness. And I'll give you some examples. Maybe not Joe Rogan, just sitting there for 3 hours rambling off with people. Vloggers, people who create shock value, people who create creative videos, people who tell stories. Basically people that are hitting the algorithm hard, unless the vertical is, science. But, think, Mr. Beast, huge, but even much smaller channels. Big channels, basically most of the big ones that are not science or like fact-based. The ones that are hitting it big is because they're storytelling, they're narrating, they're essentially acting to a certain degree. How do I explain this? Even in podcasting, there's a lot of fakeness. There are podcasts that are real. Like if I'm just being myself, like the way that I'm just sitting here speaking now, thinking, being real. Takes time to process. Not how I usually edit, cut out all the spaces to keep it flowing. Even that's a form of fakeness. But the way that I'm speaking and communicating now, thinking, deliberating, making mistakes, correcting myself, that's real podcasting. That's that Joe Rogan format, and a lot of people connect to it. But there's a whole other realm of content creation that's fake in the sense that it doesn't originate from a real place. And you could succeed by exploiting it, and I don't have that in me. I've had opportunities over the years, and I saw them clearly. For example, I've seen opportunities to do commentary over the years. In the more specific time, it was after October 7th. I watched these channels blow up. I could do exactly what they're doing. Tal the Traveling Clat. You have those other, I forgot the two names, the other two Jewish guys that are blowing up now. They're getting between 500, they're getting soon close to 1 million subscribers. Just post October 7th. What do they do primarily? Primarily commentary on drama that's unfolding. I've had opportunities to do commentary on politics. Like I said, just 2 days ago, I posted a video about Minneapolis. That stupid short gets 2,500 views. And then I look at that, I'm like, I don't want to make videos like that. Other people would look at that and say, this is it. And by the way, this is what they're always telling people to do. Look at what works, repeat it. It's one of the things that I stayed away from. Why? because what works, I'm not interested in. I don't want to do political commentary because politics is entertainment. I'm into real shit, not fake shit. Politics on even things that I care about. So let's say October 7th. It's still politics to a certain degree, but there's a survival aspect to it. October 7th was near and dear. I lived extremely close to Gaza. I know exactly what happened. All of these things matter to me, my family, our community, the Jewish world. So yes, I'm very passionate about it, as every Jew had become. I could spend days arguing ethics and morality with regards to war, cursing out the barbarity of jihadists and Hamas. I could do this, right? I don't have an interest in that. That's not where my fire is. So there's a lot of people who they see what works and they bend themselves to it. I can't do that. Well, I choose not to do that. I can do it, right? The videos that worked, after October 7th, I made one of the videos I made about October 7th, just a 7-minute clip, got over like 250,000 or close to 250,000 views on X, and people connected to it. So I should have said right then and there, oh, let me just start making videos, right? Like I said, I watched these guys blow up. Some of the biggest pro-Israel channels from X to YouTube, I know the content creators. I watched them go from 100,000 to close to 1 million. And I watched what they're doing. And I spoke to some of them. I know the formula to make between $20,000 and $40,000 a month on content creation. And I asked myself, I want to do this? I don't want to do this. I'm not willing to do it. That's one aspect of the fakeness concept that I'm describing that I never connected to. There's other aspects to it. In vlogging, you have to create drama where there is none. You have to create intrigue where there is none. You have to act. You have to create interest. You have to incubate things. And that's just not me. If you go into other niches and verticals, you have to engage with people a certain way that you wouldn't naturally. And all of these things require you to behave in a way that isn't at its fabric who you naturally are. And I have a problem with that. A lot of people don't. I've done it. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. I'm too self-aware to do that and to do it every day because I can make a good paycheck. I stayed away from all that. So I always struggled with fakeness. I've also seen, because I know some of these creators and I've spoken to them, I've come to learn, especially in the past 2 years since October 7th, that I'm cut from a different cloth, as they say. Yes, I'm a content creator, but I'm really more of a business person than I am a content creator. And I see it very clearly. How so? When I see problems, I create solutions. I'm a solutions-oriented thinker. So many people do content creation for the sake of content creation and to make a paycheck, to blow up, maybe to be famous, or more recently, it's just having a career, having a base and all that, perhaps getting wealthy or whatever. For me, it was never like that. As I said, I shared just to try to inspire and to bring out my own creativity. But when we had October 7th happen, and the problem came to our doorstep, people were scrambling for solutions. And I right away started looking into what's going on social media. I right away noticed the patterns that anti-Semitism was building. We're losing the propaganda war. They're great at propaganda. We're losing the war on information. I realized how important it is. I knew that it was going to lead to dead Jews on the pavement, and it did, like in Washington and the Molotov cocktail incident and some of the others. And now the one in Australia, Sydney, I believe it was. So I knew that, this was predictable. I watched the pattern, I see what's happening. But instead of being a typical content creator, which I was also to a certain degree, I'm on X, sharing stuff, fighting, arguing with dumb fucking low IQ pro-jihadists, and like I did all of that. But behind that, I'm evaluating like what the fuck is going on, because we have truth on our side and they have propaganda and lies. How are they succeeding with these campaigns? So I analyze, I do deep analysis. I write up a whole report, but not just a report, an entire solution, a comprehensive doctrine for what's taking place, how to solve it. Now, I right away reached out to, because I had some connections in Israel, to people who were in the Defense Department. I even reached out to some other agencies, whatever. I don't want to get into the exact details, because the level of complexity that doctrine solves, that paper solves, that thesis could still be utilized one day. So I don't want to get into the details of it. But what I do want to explain is that I was in communication with the biggest Jewish content creators who were spending some time complaining that, like, we need to coordinate, we don't know what we're doing, we need, like, right, all the Jews, we noticed the problem, but nobody had a solution. Knock, knock, who's there? Hi, I solve problems. Here's the solution. And what became apparent is that pretty much all, if not all, like 99% of these content creators that we all love and follow, and they give us all the content that we're consuming, the pro-Israel side of things, I don't want to name names, they don't care about a solution enough to make that their objective. They're content with having 1, 2, 3, 4, or 500,000 followers or subscribers or more, making $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a month on monetization, on earnings, because they're getting millions of views, and that's, yes, they actually make nice paychecks. They're content with that, and that's what they care about. They care more about how many views and likes they got than they care about real solutions. And that's another element of fakeness that I don't connect to, and that became very clear over the past 2 years. When we find ourselves in a real world issue, and you have the opportunity because you have reach, let's band together. I don't need anything, I don't want anything, I'm not asking for anything. You spend your day fighting Nazi bastards. You, more than anyone, know how badly we're losing the war on information. Let's bring some people together. One by one, they just go right back to what they're doing. Posting online, earning money. There's a level of fakeness, and it just showed me I'm not cut out for that. I solve problems. In between solving problems, if you think about it, even philosophically, what I did in a lot of my episodes is I solve problems. You know, think about my episode about free will and some of the other topics. I look at complex issues, whether it's philosophical or business, and I try to solve it. And that is how my brain thinks. So I don't connect to the superficial layer of content creation for the sake of content creation and earnings. I don't fit into that band. So that was an interesting point and an interesting thing that I've learned over the past 2 years since October 7th. And by the way, thank you, God, for returning the final hostage and all that. There's also an aspect of what social media has become. Just utter brain rot, right? Drama, gossip, all of it. It's just a cesspool of like fake gurus, internet alphas, you know, these fake alphas. and like just uneducated people trying to educate, right? You have, 17-year-olds who picked up a camera and a mic for the first time and they're trying to give you life advice and career advice. Everything about it is so cesspooly. And even to that aspect, I don't connect. It's full of clickbait that makes you want to scream, shock value and shocking titles. These things genuinely piss me off. And I have a hard time accepting those things. As I said, I held out to not do it myself. But when I see these titles that have a keyword to suck you in, they'll write these titles like, blah, 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 they don't want you to know. Like, they know how well it works. The algorithm soaks it up. People love it because you didn't give me something, so now I have to click in to find out what that thing is. But when every fucking title has that word, or when it comes to commentary, Douglas Murray destroys Dave Smith. These words. And then you go in and you're trying to find the destroyed part or the key, and just not there. So it's all fake to me. It's a sewer to me. There's a huge distinction, by the way, between a content creator's perspective and people consuming the content. For most people consuming, you're just in that cycle of going online. Whatever it's feeding you, that's your consumption, social media consumption. But for me, understanding this and then seeing it and being so analytical, can't fucking stand it. Ultimately, I'm very grateful that I stuck to my principles. Like I said, I compromised on one aspect of it just a month ago, but here I am, and it's not going to matter. There's another aspect, which is that truth and principles are very boring. They're not exciting, they're not entertaining. Unless you're an intellectual. If you're an intellectual, the truth is actually very fascinating to you. But there is this idea that it's a pattern that I noticed, and trying to think of the right words to describe it. I actually wanted to make a video about it. Well, that's not going to be happening, but I'll explain the phenomenon briefly. Whenever you see, what's the premise? The premise is that truth and principles, morals and ethics, which is what the entire channel had become about, is very boring by nature. And you can see this with regards to what's unfolding. Just give an example. This is an example. In the conservative movement. There's a split in the conservative movement. You have the groypers, as they call them. I didn't even know this word until, I've never said this word until a few weeks ago. That's how detached I am from trends. And it's been around for a while. I hate new words. I hate made up shit. Anyway, I hate fakeness. I hate fake stuff. I love tradition, fucking values, whatever. Anyway, there's a split in the conservative movement, and it just came to light after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and also because of Israel. It actually started with Israel, and it really blew up after Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated. And that's that. Is it America first Or is it America only? So you have all these groups of people, the Groypers, and then you have the Myron Gaines, Andrew Tate, Candace Owens, and all these types, these nut jobs who started like coming along and influencing somewhat a segment of the conservative population. And it started becoming a question now of like, what are the conservative values? Is it America only? Is it that direction? That Nick Fuentes direction? Or is it what it traditionally was, like you would learn from Ben Shapiro types and Dennis Prager, right? There's a lot of tension going on there, and it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. And one of the things that I felt all along as I observed what was going on is that I'm not too worried. Why? Because I wholeheartedly believe that truth prevails. Truth, principle, ethics, and values and morality are very boring. And boring doesn't work well with New Age, doesn't work well in our times. That's why the young age, they connect with these fake alphas and these Nick Fuentes anti-Semite types. It's exciting, it's invigorating, it's conspiratory by nature. Candace Owens, they soak up all this nonsense. That's, by the way, very natural at that young age in the society that they're coming up in. They know nothing, they have no experience in life, they have no critical thinking juices, so they gravitate toward that. The same way that when I was younger, I was looking into the fucking every conspiracy under the sun, and I connected to them too. I didn't go so far as a lot of these people, but it was interesting to be different, to think you're thinking outside the box. You know? Now these fucking types, what happens? Truth prevails. An example of this, so for example, the up-and-comers, the 15-year-olds, they're not intrigued by Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and the Daily Wire and all the traditional conservative types, because they're boring, they're old school, they're Israel first, they make all these statements, right? But what happens is the principles by which we are guided, us traditional types, is so consistent and persistent, it withstood the test of time, that it's going to prevail. And what happens is these nut jobs who come along with New Age thinking and conspiracies and illogic and fallacies, it falls apart on its own. So I was never worried, and I'm still not worried, that like there's going to be this new conservative movement and it's going to take over what we traditionally thought of conservatism. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is the 15-year-olds become 20-year-olds, and the 20-year-olds become 25-year-olds. And with each passing age, you know, when you level up and you fully mature and all that, you start to think and learn, and you start to realize that a lot of the stuff you believed when you were younger was stupid. Okay, you have to understand something. Nick Fuentes himself is a young kid. He's still in his 20s. So all the shit that he spewed for the past few years, I give a fuck what a 24, 25-year-old had to say. I'm taking my fucking advice from him. I listen to elders, people who have experience. So you have to understand that. It's like fucking Andrew Tate giving relationship advice. Go to fucking Rabbi Shalom Arush, read The Garden of Peace, and you'll learn about intrinsic aspects of a relationship, of giving and receiving. Who we fucking listening to? Myron Gaines is going to teach me if the Holocaust happened or didn't happen? Like, you have to understand the level of absurdity we're talking about here. So I was never worried about it. Why? Because while truth, principles, values, and morals and ethics are boring, they endure. Lies, immaturity, stupidity, and conspiracies, they come and go. All these NPCs are trends. They're not going to endure. And by the way, these nut jobs going to a club together in Miami and then having that whole fallout with Sneeko and all that in the Heil Hitler song, is a beautiful demonstration of what it means they implode from within. These are man children. These are toddlers in suits. And you could see that when they're confronted with real world stuff, they fall apart. They fight with each other. They rat each other out. They're the opposite of even what they portray to be or pretend to be or preach to be. What's my bigger point? The Candaces, the Tates, the Sneekos, the Myrones, the Nick Fuentes, and everyone in between, they're going to destroy themselves. Truth will prevail. What does that have anything to do with content creation and my channel? I'm trying to think, because I wrote, I'm grateful that I stuck to my principles. I think it has to do, I think what I was feeling when I wrote this note is that ultimately I'm glad that I stuck to my principles, because I saw the lies, the fakeness in a huge majority of content creation and podcasting and all of what has happened to media. I saw it as it happened. I wasn't blurry about it. I saw it unfolding. I called it. I stuck to my principles, however hard it may have been, because I knew that I could succeed if I did certain things. I'm extremely happy that I stuck to my principles. Sticking to truth prevails. And here we are, Here we are, it's... There are people who make good decisions. And even though my channel never succeeded in the sense of what people call success these days, like having 1 million subscribers, I still am very grateful that I'm able to make the mature decision to walk away now before it like consuming me, so to speak. I actually just recently saw the guy from Veritasium, the science channel. He had built it up himself. At this point, he has a whole team. Again, like I said, these are multi-million-dollar productions. These are companies. When they make a video, they make $1 million on a video. Okay, big YouTube videos. Think of it like a Netflix production. They make serious money from it. And he just put out a video explaining, he got married. I think he may have children. And it's interesting to see these types. Like, he might be my age or a little older or something. Like, we're all growing. It's a certain age. And he's making the decision to slowly back away a little bit. And he's doing it preemptively. There was another guy, this outdoor guy, older guy, skinny, tall guy. He always cooks outdoor. I was never like really indulged in his stuff, but I've seen some of his videos, and I just saw a video of him basically explaining that he's going to be stepping away. Massive success. He's probably earning good money on YouTube. Why would he step away? He's not $1 billion production. Nobody's going to take him over. He's saying it's getting to the point where he can't even go outside and not be recognized. The whole sense of privacy and having a life for yourself goes out the window. He didn't go into it to be a celebrity. He went into it because he had a passion for camping and outdoor cooking, and he's showing people stuff. Next thing you know, he has 1 million followers. He's a celebrity now. He never wanted that. So it's very nice to see some people that have the maturity, even with their success. I didn't reach that success. But even with their success, they have the maturity to say, let me walk away while things are still good. And to a certain degree, I feel like I'm doing the same thing, even without this said. Just the decision to see what's going on and say, you know what, things are still okay now. I don't want to drown myself in trying to succeed. Let me take a step back because I don't like how this entire landscape looks. So I wanted to share that. I was getting very close to cracking the code to my channel. See, I was faced with a complexity throughout the years, which was that I was into topics that are truth-based, hence boring. For example, philosophy, spirituality, specifically, this is also niche-based, but specifically from the vantage point of Judaism. Okay, so I've learned a lot of different spiritual things, but if I'm sharing spiritual concepts, it's coming from Chassidut, Kabbalah, various Jewish traditions, kosher spirituality, in other words. So that's very niche. It's not just spirituality, because yes, there's a lot of big spiritual channels, but who's connecting, right? Philosophy, spirituality, faith, again, specifically from the methodology of Emunah, from Chassidut, and various other things, ethics, morality, at its crux, and this is more recently, I'm able to term it like this, I had believed that the world could truly benefit from learning Jewish teachings. We're supposed to be Or LaGoyim, a light on the nations. How can we do so? First of all, we already are. And I noticed a pattern. A lot of the Jewish channels, Manis Friedman type, Simon Jacobson, they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. More than half of them are not Jewish. So I started noticing that there's a lot of non-Jewish people who have a genuine interest to listen to what Jews have to say. The non-Jewish world could greatly benefit from Jewish values, ethics, and morality. As you can see, there's just so much immorality, so much confusion, because they don't have that strong foundation that we do. The challenge throughout the years was how do you make these topics interesting? You have an ever-changing digital and media landscape that is highly competitive, where everyone's trying to grab your attention with, think of it as media porn, the best thumbnail, the shock value. How do I come in and I want to discuss free will, or epistemology, or any psychological or philosophical, any concept, Baruch Spinoza, how is that interesting to anyone? And I didn't have the answer until recently, where I started formulating, or I guess curating a certain blueprint or formula for how we could bring these concepts in and modernize it. I don't just want to share these ideas to another Jewish person who, in one way or another, has already learned it, and I'm just brushing up their memory and sharpening it. I want to bring it down for anyone to understand. And to do that, you have to connect to modern day and age, modern lingo, so on and so forth. And I believed, and I do believe, that I have the capacity to do so, because I'm enough up to date with what's going on in media, in technology, in all the shtusim that's going on and everything, so I could take a concept and we could connect. So I was getting really close to cracking that code. It's just funny because for so many years I just wasn't sure. I've even said on my own podcast, like, okay, here's another boring topic for those people who like boring topics. And I knew then, like, it's a negative way to look at it, but obviously I have to get more creative. There has to be a creative look. People are into every topic. There's a segment of people who are into these topics. How do I find them? How do I appeal to them? How do I capture them? How do I get to them? I knew I had to get more creative. Just like I listen to philosophy talk and spirituality and all that, there are other people who would. But I'm coming from different angles. What I tried to do historically was analyze things a little differently than, I guess, traditional people analyze. I had a little niche, I felt. But I was just starting to touch on possibly how to make it tangible. But we're going to put that to rest, and we will. And again, I'll find my creative outlets. Maybe it'll be more in person, right? Maybe I could touch and impact people different ways. Maybe I could, not maybe, for sure, I'll bring all of these talents and these thoughts and feelings into relationships and the people I meet and all that. But it's going to be less this and more here and out there in the world. And I've been connecting to that as it is over the past couple years. I'm traveling with my family. We're having a great time. We're comfortable. I go to gym, do cold plunge, do sauna, talk to God every day. I don't worry about my income, complete surrender. Like, we've genuinely reached such a good place that I could take all this and express it even more if I'm not busy with, trying to record it and share it with others. So thank you, Hashem, for that. Really, really grateful for the endless blessings Hashem has given me. I've prayed, I prayed for so much over the years, and God has delivered so much. The amount of personal goals and negative behaviors and just things that I've wanted to conquer that I have is shocking to me. And I've done so through personal prayer and heart spiritual work. Just want to put that out there. 5 years ago, I was gifted with the ability to make aliyah with my family. A dream that, a goal and aspiration that many dream of, and just, it remains a dream for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, for some their entire life. I learned about the importance of Israel. I prayed for it for 10 years. And then I married someone and it became possible. We moved to Israel 5 years ago. Recently, we're doing a lot of travel because, again, Hashem has blessed us with the ability to do so. We're immersing ourselves in various cultures, and we're getting to experience the world and just becoming more aligned and one with the universe and with existence, and so on and so forth. So, thank God. We're in a really good place, and doing or not doing social media is not going to impact that, one way or another. If anything, I'll be able to pour more love and devotion into physically doing that. I was going to say, I travel a lot, and what I see when I'm out there on the street are millions of people living a life detached from all the negativity and drama, politics and gossip that I guess the people that our people are busy with. And they're just living life. So grounded, so present. And I've been tapping into that over the years, and I'm actively having conversation with my wife about how we could continue in that trajectory. But I really wish that upon everyone. But just being more grounded, experiencing more of this world for what it is, and less of that fake fucking screen time, less of that shit that doesn't really matter to you, that doesn't impact you. I don't want to get into that. I've discussed this in the past. Everyone knows this, but if you are considering, that it's not for you, then let me tell you that it's not for everyone. And there's so many people just living, from the Israel perspective. You listen to these Dave Smith types, these pontificators, fucking Cenk Uygur and these fucking Anna Kasparian and all these fucking dumbasses, and they think they're so relevant and that they matter and all this whatnot, especially on the topic of Israel. I lived in Israel. I was around Israelis post-October 7th for this past 2 years during the whole war. These people don't even know these people's names. Meaning Israelis don't know who fucking Cenk Uygur is, and they don't give a fuck about his opinion. My point is, okay, and most Israelis, by the way, are not submerged in fucking X and YouTube fucking videos. People are going about living their life, and they're the ones that create change in Israel. They could go vote. They decide how they live their fucking life. Not Americans 3,000 miles away who have no skin in the fucking game. It's Israelis. So that's just an example from Israel. And in other countries with different conflicts and different stuff, I'm just saying, like, if you put your head into the fucking screen and you think it matters, it doesn't fucking matter. Shut off the fucking screen, disconnect, find nice things in life. Connect, find that inner peace, that inner joy, good family values, so on and so forth. And that's what a lot of these fake alphas online, these gurus are trying to teach you. They're always fucking selling you a course, pretending to be real alphas. They're trying to take away from traditional values. Oh, have 1 million girlfriends and fucking, you know, they're fucking hiring OnlyFans models to take pictures with them. Like, it's so, well, you know what I mean? Don't, what happens is when you indulge in that shit, you come to believe it with time. Even if in the beginning you're like, that's bullshit. But if you watch it enough, it gets into your head and you start thinking, maybe he has one point. Don't learn your fucking ethics, your relationship advice, or anything from fucking dipshits online. Stay away from it. The online world is so full of that. It's one of the reasons why I have no problem just taking a step back. It's like, I see it so much. I've taken steps back. I don't spend as much time on YouTube. Just fucking stay away. YouTube is a tough one because there's a lot of phenomenal shit on YouTube. Educational shit. Just a ton of educational shit. And the algorithm will always feed you bullshit. So, yeah, I feel grateful. Some may question, you know, why change? As I said earlier, because of the mindset. As soon as I know I'm taking a full break, stepping away, I don't have the responsibility. I do think that the content creation landscape is evolving and changing. And I'm interested to see what it's going to evolve into. When I started with YouTube, YouTube was a very newish thing. Then podcasting rolled around and it became a hit. It's still going strong, but it also, by the way, podcasting also became way too saturated. It's one of the reasons why I never went hardcore on podcasting. Because I started doing it, it became such a trend. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, okay, I'm not a podcaster. Leave me the fuck alone. You know? If nobody's doing it, I'm interested. I like novelty. I visit countries and places that nobody goes to. I go into the mountains. I walk on trails. Like, get me the fuck away from everybody else. That's just my nature. So podcasting, not just video and content creation, but podcasting specifically also became such a thing that I had my times where I was like pulling in and pulling out and making more and making less videos. Podcasting blew up, and now most recently, shorts became the thing. I think, just my own observation, I think we're reaching maybe another year or so. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline. We're reaching close to the peak of shorts being the top consumption, meaning everything gets boring with time. Everything. Perhaps not good old traditional dialogue, you know, big long conversations for people who have the Sitzfleisch, the patience to sit through and listen, but trendy things that are not very beneficial, they come and go. Shorts are not very beneficial. I think something's going to replace it. And it's going to be interesting to see if I'm right, and it's going to be interesting to see what replaces it, if that happens. Because like I said, so we had the videos, we have podcasts, now shorts, everybody all day, shorts. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think the outcome of that is good. I don't think it's sustainable. So what's next? The fact that the landscape is ever changing is another reason why I fucking hate it. I like consistency. I like, you know, having a fucking conversation, learning, getting into something traditional. This media landscape is changing, always changing. And the idea that as to be a successful content creator, you have to technically be in university just to keep up with what's going on. Certainly not for me, certainly not right now. I think I'm going to enjoy the ability to stand on the outside fully and laugh at the absurdity. Because what happens is this. Things suck you in, even if you know they're absurd. I'll give you an example. If I want to talk about Israel, what's going on in Israel, and do some commentary, which I said I hate doing, like political commentary, but I know it could be very successful, I have to be on top of the topic. So I have to listen to what the biggest voices are talking about, from the real philosophers and thinkers, intellectuals, to the wannabes, to the low fruit. I have to listen to Piers Morgan and everyone he's interviewing because I need to be up to date with what's going on. And I've consumed, after October 7th, for the year and a half, up until a few months ago, I consumed all of it. I knew day to day, minute to minute, every single thing that was unfolding, everyone's opinion, inside out. For me to do commentary on it, I need to be up to date with what's going on. By watching it, you get sucked in. When you're outside of it, looking at it, you can laugh like this is a puppet show, right? What happens when you start listening? Those puppets begin to have an impact on your brain, and you begin to think that they have a point that is even worth addressing. You get sucked into the environment. This happens naturally. It's a human phenomenon. It's not something you can really control much. It happens. Not just with that, with anything. You could know, for example, that police departments act like gangs. And if you become a police department if you become a police officer in that same department, you will also be part of the herd mentality. You will end up sticking up for your buddy, even though you know he's wrong, because you get sucked into environments. When you're completely outside of an environment, you could observe it, laugh at the absurdity, and not be sucked into it. When you get sucked into it, all of a sudden, the same thing you were laughing at, you're now part of. I think I'm going to appreciate, at least for the time being, for the foreseeable future, being fully outside of it and truly finding the humor in the buffoonery of it, instead of feeling like I need to do something to try to help. Because right now when I listen to Cenk Uygur run his mouth, besides for wanting to punch him in his face, I want to point out all the illogic and fallacies that he just uttered. If I don't have that desire, because I'm not creating content and I could shift my mental faculties, which won't be easy, but I will work on, then I could maybe get to that point where I'm like really an observer and just laughing at the absurdity of this fucking circus. I will say that not everyone experiences this level, okay, of nuance that I'm describing. I do recognize that my level of analysis is deep. I believe it comes from actually a phenomenon that I was going to record on. It was going to be one of my upcoming episodes, called meta-awareness or continuous meta-awareness, which is something that I believe I live with. Very, very fascinating phenomenon. It's called continuous meta-awareness. I was going to record. I did research. So some things clicked in my head. I was like, this is really interesting. I did some research, and I was going to record a episode about the connection between continuous meta-awareness with existential anxiety, along with levels of consciousness, meditation and inner peace, the difference between equanimity and indifference, as a path to find deeper levels of inner peace for people who struggle with stuff. But anyway, very fascinating. Look into it on your own. There's different levels of consciousness. Number 5 essentially is meta-awareness, continuous meta-awareness. There are people who work hard and meditate to get to that level, but there's such a phenomenon of falling into it through different traumatic events that happened in your past. So you could fall into it without building yourself up to it, but if you fall into it without building yourself up to it, then you're not a worthy Kaylee, you're not a proper vessel to be able to handle it. So it causes all kinds of, very fascinating. But anyway, I analyze things almost from a third person perspective, always, which makes the whole journey more nuanced, technical, and arduous for myself. I recognize that, okay? 5 million content creators are not sitting here and agonizing over every little detail. Most of them just feel emotionally annoyed by the lack of impressions, by the lack of clicks, by the lack of whatever. They get mad online. You know, I'm not like that. I observe it almost from an outsider's perspective, and I always have all throughout these years, and I was able to compartmentalize, distance myself from it, and therefore I'm sharing so many little details. But I also wanted to share because, again, for the few of you that took that journey with me and perhaps wondered, or may in the future wonder, like, what happened? How did it start? How did it get here? You know, so I had a fun journey. I created a lot of stuff along the way. But that is how we got from that to this. So in conclusion, now that we are 2 hours in, this might be the longest podcast I ever did. Paying tribute to the last moment. Give you a real Joe Rogan, you know, word by word, piece by piece. Yeah, I don't know if I ever did one that's more than 2 hours. I might be wrong. But yeah, I'm not trying to rush. As I said, this is unedited, it's unscripted. Everything I just shared is just different points all over the place, but they're all on this topic. I was trying to share from when I began until now, all the different things that have come up, the way that I felt, the phenomenon, everything that's taking place. And I think at this point you have a pretty good understanding of what's happening here. I feel positive that I'm pulling away and stepping back at the right time, you know, before it hurts me. I had a lot of fun, and I'm not even closing the door, I'm closing a chapter. I'm recognizing that the way that the digital landscape looks right now, with the algorithm not favoring small channels and not even giving you the chance to share your stuff with your own followers, it's not something that I want part of. If I see in the future that there is some kind of opportunity to step back in and I could inspire people and lift people up, I may do so. Thank you so much for everyone who was with me along for the journey. There are ways to contact me, get in touch with me. Like I said, I'm heavily involved in business. I have a business called WeFound, and I also own a business called Oki. At WeFound, I specialize in various things. I'm a business development architect. I design frameworks that businesses use to solve business problems. As we discussed in this video, I solve complex issues. I was talking to a client of mine, and sometimes it's hard for me to describe what I do because I actually have a lot of skills in so many different realms in the digital world. But the way that I summarize it these days, for somebody that's a little bit more informal, I solve complex things. So if you own a business and there's a real complexity, you're not sure how to create a proper workflow or a protocol for it or how to automate it, so on and so forth, I take complex, what feels and seems complex to people, I take it, break it down into pieces, because I deal with database and database design. I break it down into pieces conceptually, then on paper or whatever, and I implement solutions. So that's what I do. I solve complex issues. My brain has the ability to solve some of the most complex issues in the world. Like I said, post October 7th, I understood and created a solution how to solve this whole information war thing, the war on information for Israel. I create real solutions for real problems, but primarily I focus it on business. But what else? But another thing I'm really focusing on, and we found, is outsourcing Filipinos. I outsource top tier Filipinos. These Filipinos are not just virtual assistants who could help you with a Google Sheet, okay? These virtual assistants could fill almost any role that could be done remotely. High-level roles. I've put people in positions of project management, dispatching, billing, running entire companies, so on and so forth. The lowest tier is like $5 an hour or $5.50, and it goes up to $14 an hour. Once you get into the higher tiers, 11 or $14 an hour, you're getting somebody with near perfect English, somebody who's seasoned and experienced. And let me tell you something, these people show up. One of my clients said I was quelling over the notion of me. I outsource a lot of Filipinos to that company. And I was talking about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I saved that company. He said, forget about the money. This is a New York-based company, a Manhattan-based company. He said, forget about the money. The strongest selling point and the way that this client feels is that the work ethic, forget about the money I'm saving the company. I'm giving them work ethic. These Filipinos show up every day. They're happy to do their job, and they work hard consistently. They don't have huge expectations. They're not trying to get 30, 40, then 50, 60, $70 an hour. They don't want to be managers. They don't want to take huge positions. They don't make excuses every other week why they're coming in late or why they can't show up. They just show the fuck up and they work. They do it consistently, and they deliver so much more value than locals. Anyway, that's my sales pitch for my outsourcing. So We Found is spelled with 2 D's. WEFOUNDD. WeFound.com. And you can get in touch with me through there. I'm probably still going to do podcasting just on other people's shows. You know, like my friend Viggy does his Yiddish podcast. I enjoy dialogue, like I said. I just don't want to be busy or absorbed in the realm and the world of content creation when all of what I just described is going on. So you might be able to find me there. And Oki is a company that specializes in web and app development as a subscription. And this is a truly unique model in the sense that the pricing is so affordable. I charge between $100 and $150 a month to not only build, but to provide ongoing development and host your website or your custom application. So imagine your company and you need a custom solution. Now with AI, I'm essentially a master at prompting AI with regards specifically to application development. So imagine you need a solution that used to cost $50,000 custom. I could build it in 2 weeks using AI, and you pay $150 a month. That could be done on a website, or it could be done on actual applications. Those are some areas in which I specialize, and then I do a million other things. So if you want to get in touch, you can find me through these. I'm sharing this information so that you know if you want to get in touch, there's a way to get in touch with me. We Found, Oki, and you could contact us and get in touch. All in all, I feel grateful. I feel blessed. Looking forward to spending more quality time with family and friends and travel and nature and all that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the chaos of this world is going to evolve into. The main thing is, through thick and thin, the main thing is not to fear. I've been coming to a place of less and less fear. We all have fears and anxieties, innate as they may be, deep as they may run. I've been really, really working on that, and I could say that that is the ikr of everything. You could have amunah, you could have faith, you could have spiritual ecstasy, you could have everything. You could have a relationship with God and talk to Him every single day. If you don't work specifically on your fears, on your irrational fears, your anxieties, whatever, it can be from something as stupid as flying on an airplane, anxiety type of fear, to deep, deep existential fear, to fear of somebody from your past, whatever it is. More than half of our life is driven and controlled by our fears. What we do and don't do has to do with our fears. How we think and don't think has to do with our fears. Go deep. Go very, very deep. I heard a very interesting line, and I'll end with this because I could ramble on now forever. I'm in the role here. I'll end with this. Somebody said that every religion is different, respectively, of course. There's one thing that they all share in common. In every major religion, there is a strong teaching and emphasis on the notion of not fearing. I didn't do the research on this. I want to. Perhaps I will. But if that's true, that's actually very fascinating, because however every religion differs, it would be interesting if they all converge on this one point. Al tira, do not fear. Fear is a anti-God, irrational, fake, human, evil-inspired construct. And once you learn how to strip it, you could enter spiritual ecstasy, closeness to God. So that's what I wish for you. That's what I pray for you. And that's what I hope for you. Until I see you again, peace and love.